Carnival does be bright and gay. Carnival does be sweet and jumpy when the bandmen appear. Everybody jumping away. They will jump and whine and call for more. Jumping up to the sweet tempo. All the while the officials making it. Trouble is the bandmen and the calypsonian. Scrunting after carnival done. And yet still we keep on jamming. Every year we come out playing Calypsonian and the bandman, east, west, north and south. From every part of this island we make our contribution. Don't leave us out. Remember we are the ones who make the jump, who make you jump up and prance. We're in the middle of the carnival. We are the ones keep up the bacchanal. We are the ones who make the jump, make you jump up and prance. Working to make this fun and spring. Greatest summer festivity, and yet we treated Calypsonians and bandmen like dirt. All you we weren't. Hey. Setting the artists against each other while making up the eye, frustrating the barriers, putting up one against each other in the competition. That is how they keep us apart. Through all the years we fought and fought, the little changes we have brought, we're still behind, way behind the time. Artists of other lands living fortune and fame, for Calypsonian and bandman only no shame. And yet still we keep on jamming. Every year we come out playing Calypsonian and the bandman, east, west, north and south.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Just bear with us a few minutes as we just make a few adjustments in terms of our seating so that we will be better able to service you and to get all the issues addressed. Thank you.
Make you jump up and prance, working to make this fun and spring. Greatest summer festivity, and yet we treating Calypsonians and bandmen like dirt. All you we were. Hey! Of carnival does be sitting high, looking on a wheel in splendor, wonder and awe. Canada and Europe is where she goes annually, cocktail parties and all. They will walk and preach and beg and bribe to give her these expensive prize, while the Calypsonians get to battle around. It even worse cause the bandmen get nothing at all. And they work like hell to keep carnival from falling. It's 21 years we jamming, it's 21 years we play. When police will howl and chase us all over this land. It's 21 years of hardship, working until Jubilee morning, and suffering still. Remember we are the ones who make the jump, who make you jump up and prance. We are in the middle of the carnival. We are the ones who keep up the bacchanal. We are the ones who make the jump, who make you jump up and prance. Working to make this fun and spring. Greatest summer festivity, and yet we treating Calypsonians and bandmen like dirt.
Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon, and welcome to a extra special edition of We Are the One. As we are the ones. As audience, as you're aware, we are normally on 1 day weekly, Wednesdays, from 4 to 6. But yesterday we began a discussion about the St. John's Harbour development. And it went very well, but there was lots of information that we needed to share. And we were not able to complete the program in the scheduled time. And additionally, we had a number of other guests who we wanted to bring to share also with us so that we're familiar with all the stakeholders who are critical and pivotal to the redevelopment. So this afternoon we're back for another just about a little over an hour and a half today, because we're starting just a little later than we had planned. And with us today we have back with us Of course, we have the port manager, Mr. Telemak. Good afternoon, Mr. Telemak.
Good afternoon, Petra. Good afternoon to you and your listeners.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Let me thank you very much for agreeing to come and do an extended program with us and to use the opportunity to bring our audience and the general public up to speed on what's going on with the port development.
Yeah, we think it's important to bring out all of the information on the project and ensure that the general public is aware as to all of the facets, components, and the entities involved. And if they are better informed, they can understand what to look forward to, and they can better understand how and when it's time to use it, manipulate it, make the best out of it, that they'll be able to do so.
Joining us again from yesterday, we have a few more engagements with him and dialogue, is my teacher. Teacher, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, my dear student, Petra. And good afternoon to your listening audience.
All right. For sanity's sake, those of you who are wondering what we're talking about, this is Mr. Everett Zachariah. Engineer by profession.
That's correct.
Yes. Well, second profession. First profession, my teacher. That was your first profession?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Best. Yeah. In addition to Mr. Zachariah is the project manager on the Antigua side. Am I correct? Make sure I get that correct.
Yeah, I wanted to clarify that he's on the project management team, and the construct of the team is still being put together. So ultimately, we will have a project manager in short order, but he's the lead engineer on the team at this point, and someone who has been doing significant work with the Antigua Port Authority, and with all of the stakeholders who have been engaged in and around the port. So he's familiar with the port. We've engaged him. He's been to China with us, very intimately aware with all of the facets of what we're doing. So everyone is on the team, and we're happy to have him on with us.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. See, you're going to make me put my teacher in problems. Today with us we have Mr. Khalid. I got it correctly?
Yeah.
Mr. Khalid Shabazz, who is a recent engaging on the project, and he has some specific responsibilities that I'm going to ask him to outline shortly. But just for now, I'd like to welcome Mr. Khalid Shabazz to the program. And of course, I have to say this, because there are very few programs that I don't have a member of my community also on the program. And thank you for being here. Yesterday I had Mr. Roberts, and today I have you. So please, Point and Villa people, we have to extend a special welcome to our community member, Mr. Shabazz. Mr. Shabazz, good afternoon.
Thank you for inviting me, Petra. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right. Mr. Telemak will now take me through the introductions of our guests, our special guests this afternoon, who are central and pivotal to the St. John's Port redevelopment project.
Well, yes, and before I do that, I'd like to also welcome Mr. Shabazz. He wasn't here with us yesterday, but he's an integral part of the process. Mr. Shabazz will give more details, but he is engaged by Cabinet to be the liaison officer between the Cabinet of Antigua and Barbuda and the project. As such, there are some specific instructions that he has, and there's some specific role that he plays in ensuring that the objectives of the cabinet, indeed the objective of the minister of the port, the local PAL rep of the area, is actually met. And no doubt he's chosen a very fine, strong young man, strong stature. And certainly happy to have you along here with us, Mr. Shabazz. On my right-hand side, if you are looking on Facebook, you will notice there are some Asian gentlemen. They are Chinese citizens, and they're here representing two separate companies. I'll start on the far right. That's Mr. Guang. He is currently the acting project manager.
Mr.
Guang.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yes. He's the acting project manager at this time, as the project manager for CCECC, which is a construction company. He is off in China doing some work and will be back shortly. So in his absence, Mr. Guang here is the one who's actually on the ground now acting
in the space of the project manager. Next to him is Mr. Yao, and Mr. Yao is the coordinator, or you can say project officer, the go-to guy, the interpreter, the one that makes things happen. He is certainly integral as the go-between. He communicates with us, communicates with them. He ensures that everything that needs to be done is done. He's a stickler for deadlines and getting things done on time. So Mr. Yao is the CCECC point man on the job. So that represents at this point the contractors, CCECC, and they were chosen by the Chinese Exim Bank to build this port after the government of Antigua and the government of China signed on for the port development project. So there was that first part between the governments, and the Exim Bank came aboard and chose CCECC to build the project. In recent time in the region, there's been quite a bit of Chinese projects happening. And for this project, the Exim Bank has decided to institute a new level of accountability and quality assurance in the project. And to do that, they have engaged and contracted a supervision company. I think you mentioned that yesterday. But it's a new level of quality control built into these offshore projects that the Chinese government is now embarking on. No longer will it be done without that type of accountability and reassurance. And so the Exim Bank has engaged Guangzhou Shen, which is the supervision company. So when you see the project happening, these gentlemen will be dressed in, I guess they may reflect it in their dressing. Although they are Chinese, they're actually here representing the government of China through the embassy, represented because they're the ones who negotiated this loan. The Exim Bank hired them, and they're working on behalf of the Port Authority to ensure that CCECC does a good job. So I think that, in fact, is a new level of accountability, and the partnership is improving, where the Chinese government is now saying, we're not only going to allow you to get some funding to do a project, but we're now going to ensure that the project is done at a high standard, delivered on time, and the sequences of things are clearly outlined to you. If we, the owners, have some issues, we now have an entity that we can go to, which is the supervision company, to address that. The supervision company will go to the contractor, and they will demand that the contractor do as we would like them to do, if it fits within the scope of the project, and certainly goes along with excellence and quality. And that's why these guys are here. So they're serving two masters, really, which is the government of China through the Exim Bank and the government of Antigua through the Antigua Port Authority. So they are here, they are our guys. And so I've kept them close to me and kept the contractors on the other side. So the two gentlemen representing the supervision companies is Mr. Luo. Mr. Luo is the chief engineer on this project. He's the head of the supervision company. And he has two other individuals with him. And today he has Mr. Well, I'll call him by his English name because he has an English name. He speaks English as well. That's Kyrie.
And, repeat?
His Chinese name.
That's the hardest name you give me.
His Chinese name is Zhu, but Kyrie is an easy name. Yeah, that's an easy name.
Kyrie?
Kyrie. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Kyrie is his English name. Speaks English, and but his Chinese name is Mr. Zhu.
I prefer Zhou. I know I have Guam.
Mr. Huang.
Guang.
Yes.
Mr. Guang.
Yes.
Guang. Okay. Yo.
Mr. Yao.
Oh, jeez. Yao.
Mr. Yao.
Have to get you some yogurt. There's an Antiguan yogurt brand named Yao.
Yes.
I'll get you some of that. And then you have Mr. Lo.
Mr. Luo.
Look. Hey.
Lore. I'm writing it in English so I can pronounce it, man. Mr. Lore.
Yes.
And Mr. Kyrie.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Zhou.
Is my English name.
Guan, Yao, Lo, and Kyrie. Okay, wonderful. I'm going to forget all of these just now. Gentlemen, welcome to Antigua. How do you say welcome in Mandarin?
欢迎来到安提瓜和巴布
Okay,
达。
never mind. I was planning to tell you welcome in your language,
Okay,
but don't
thank
bother. Welcome to Antigua.
Yes.
Welcome to Point and Villa,
Okay.
where the project is.
Yes.
The best village on earth. Best village.
Okay. Thank you.
Am I overdoing it? Welcome to Point FM.
Thank you.
I'm Petra Williams, and we are having a discussion about the project, the St. John's Redevelopment Project. And I just wanted to thank you for agreeing to come to speak with us for a while today. And we just wanted to get an overview from you. First, the contracting company, as to how has it been so far? How have preparations been getting ready for the project? You can turn the mic to them.
Yes. Our team has been here for a few time. We've already done a lot of work here. And yes, of course, with the assistance of Post Authority. Yes. Nowadays, we are constructing the temporary facilities like offices, like the accommodation for our staff, and also the production camp. And also, we've already signed we already have had a subcontractor, which is called Meridian Construction, to do the dredging work. We decided to start the dredging work on September the 12th, but because of the Isaac, it is postponed until the weekend of this week. I believe it could be started in the weekend.
Okay.
And also, once we finish the dredging work, we will start to backfill the area of the east side of the port, so that we have land reclamation for the new warehouse to be built. Yes, and in the meantime, our material from China, and also our equipment from China is on the way to come, and until now, 9 containers of material has been on the site now. Yes, we already received 9 containers. So the more material is still coming, and the equipment is still coming. Once the equipment come, we will start the work of the administrative building for the port. Yes, I believe we can finish the construction of the new building in the next year. Yes, so the Port Authority will have a new office in 2019. Yes, I believe that. Yes.
And I'm assuming the plan is that once that building is finished, then you'll move into that one. I'm asking for other reasons.
Yes.
Oh yes, like I said, we are at the site we are at now temporarily. We will. There are other considerations we have to take as well, because we would have the carpool there.
The carpool will still be there. Yes.
Once we have all the space that we required, definitely we'll be vacating the Dredge Bay area. I know that's the reason for your question.
And I asked that question, if you permit me, because between our program yesterday and this morning, I got so many calls about that. I think some persons missed that.
Yeah.
So I told them to tune in, so that rather than hearing me say what it is about, that they can hear it directly from source.
Oh yeah, absolutely, Petra. We want to make it very clear that our presence at the Dredge. First of all, we're grateful for the understanding of the West Ham Plain Football Club that has actually, we sat with them and we actually spoke to them about needing the field, and we also went to the Princess Margaret ground where we spoke to the principal to allow them to use that field. When we got the approval, they agreed. We will play there until you're done, and then we'll come back. There's no question that they're going to be, we will be making the field available to the community so they can use it. We'd have to put some items back in place, including the grounds and maybe some areas for folks to sit on. But definitely that's going to be done. There is one aspect that we've been trying to do for them, and that is the removal of about 4 date trees that sit on the southern side of the Princess Margaret field. And we've been trying to get someone from agriculture to come and supervise the removal of those, because we've placed them there, and so we're trying to assist them.
And what's the problem?
The ball gets in the date trees, and there's
No. What's the problem with getting them
balls.
removed?
Well, you have to be careful how you move the trees and ensure that you're not going to upset the folks from agriculture when you start pulling trees down. So we want to get the permission to do so. So once we get that, we'll move those trees. So if you know anyone in that area, you can contact us. If anyone listening knows who can give us or guide us in that process, we'd be happy to facilitate the Western playing field in that respect.
All right, so just before I continue, just permit me, if you can just take 2 minutes and just give us a refresh our minds on the project scope.
Well, yes, we're going to have a full-scale development of the Deepwater Harbor. We are going to have the construction of a brand new transit shed, call it the warehouse, where we'll be moving towards the eastern side of the facility. That warehouse will be a larger warehouse. It will operate with new and different systems. We're going to have racks. We're going to have it's going to be fully computerized. So the process of receiving and delivering goods will be transformed significantly. We're also going to have a new area where we're going to be berthing the Ro-Ro vessels. It's a little bit east of where we are now. We're going to have a location for our tugs, which will be just a little bit just within the vicinity of where we now tie up the Ro-Ro vessels. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to have an extended berth. So we're now going to be able to berth 2 full-scale container ships. And that we can't do right now, one, because of the limitation in the draft. We can berth 2 ships. We can't work them efficiently, mostly because of the warehouse. So the crane can come down further along the quay because the warehouse is in the way. The warehouse is going to move. And so we will now have an open area with a lot more space to work 2 vessels. So with 2 cranes, which we intend to have, we will soon be able to operate 2 full-scale vessels at the same time, making the Port of St. John's one of the only ports in the only port in the Eastern Caribbean where this could actually be effected, where we could have 2 full-scale liner vessels, containerized vessels being operated on, and 1 Ro-Ro vessel being discharged all at the same time. We would certainly be the only one where this could happen, and that, I think, is going to give us a significant advantage as we go forward and as we position the port to be the leader in logistics and transportation services within this part of the Caribbean.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Yo.
Yes.
I am getting it. You're there. Yes. Another question for your team.
Yes.
I know that you're bringing in the majority of your workers to work on the project, but do you anticipate that you'll be able to utilize some of our local labor as part of the project?
Of course, it is in our plan. We've already employed 13 local workers here, yes, to work for this project. And also we hired a lot of local equipment. And every equipment, they have the operators and the drivers. Yes, we have a lot of local workers here, yes, already, yes. It is our plan also.
Okay, all right. Excellent, all right. And as it relates to the whole issue of getting locals involved, we have with us Mr. Shabazz. Mr. Shabazz, share with us what is your remit as it relates to this project.
Well, my main function is somewhat like Mr. Yao. I'm the liaison between the Antigua and Barbuda government and the Chinese Civil Engineering Construction Corporation. My primary responsibility is not only to facilitate between the Antigua and Barbuda government and CCECC, but to also ensure that at least 40% of the employment is given to the Antigua and Barbuda public.
So how does your role is to ensure that basically citizens and residents of Antigua are engaged in the project. Mm-hmm. How do you facilitate that process?
Okay. Well, there's 2 ways that individuals that either be it laborers, workers, skilled workers, and so on and so forth, construction workers, or if it's equipments or otherwise that is needed on the project, they can either sign up in their community for work on the port project, or they can come directly to the Port Authority. We have applications that they can fill out at the Port Authority and mentioning either equipment or skills that they may have that would be able to be utilized on the port project.
Is there any way that one can get a list of the types of employment that might be available? For example, Petra Williams clearly is not a contractor. I don't think I can do any of the masonry work, steel work, or any, well, maybe I could, think about that. But how would I know if there are other opportunities that I could potentially explore? Is there a list online? Is there a list I could come down to the port and see when I go to, you said we can check in our communities. When we go wherever those places are, do they have a list available so I can go and see, okay, this is available because I have this skill. So I can do a matching of my skill to what is available before I apply to make sure it makes sense.
I must admit, we haven't constructed a list, but I think like any other construction site, where you're constructing an entity or a building, or like something like the port, there are different things that will be needed, and I don't think that's really hard to figure out what construction site they may need.
Just lock me out to the work.
But what I'm responsible for, if there's any other aspects of it, be it a mechanic or be it a driver, I'm responsible for sourcing that for CCECC.
What about subcontracts? I mean, I know they mentioned like the dredging, they've already subcontracted out. We had the subcontract to get the buildings removed, which Mr. Telemak spoke about yesterday, which went very well. Are you also responsible for getting subcontractors in?
I don't primarily deal with subcontraction. Subcontraction is usually, if it's needed, usually CCECC will relate that information to me, but they usually handle the subcontraction. I mainly handle the employment and be it equipment.
Yeah, but who would point them in the right direction?
I could point them.
There.
I could point them in direction
okay.
That they need to be pointed to. But my primary responsibility has to do with those things, ensuring that these needs are met. Like I said, primary function is to ensure that the Antigua and Barbuda public gets its fair share of employment on the project.
Okay, what about equipment? I should say heavy equipment.
Petra, let me just chime in here a little bit. That's a very critical role.
I'm not finished with him yet, but go ahead.
All right, but I just want to highlight that. It's very critical. Every project, every capital project in any country has to make some level of impact economically and socially. And in recent times, we've had projects being done by the Chinese company, which is significantly involve a vast number of Chinese laborers. What the Prime Minister did when we were signing this contract, and I saw him in his very stern way indicate to the then Chinese CCECC chairman that we are going to have a significant amount of local labor on this project. And he went in and said, I want a number. And it seemed like it was a bit much. And the chairman of the CCCC sort of started, scratching his head like, whoa, that's a big number. Well, they ended up at a number. Mm-hmm. And what was agreed is that there should be there should be a balance. You bring in your technician, bring in the highly skilled engineers that the Chinese are required to have on site. But then there are some areas where the local Antiguan should be able to fit into. And that was established somewhere around 40% of the labor requirement on the project would actually come from the local source stock. Now, whether you actually arrive at that number or not, that is something that Shabazz and CCC are going to work on. But the intention, clearly spelled out by the Minister of the Port and the representative of Point here, where the port is located, is that we have to see engagement from the local stock. And it is good to see what is happening so far. We've seen Shabazz come up at the port. He has an office there with a desk. He sits, he signs people up, gets their name, get their information. So we encourage.
So I can sign up here before he leaves. Shabazz, you have any form?
She don't need to sign up.
I'm afraid that I don't have any form. But as Mr. Telemak indicated, you don't have to sign up.
What?
You have special privileges.
I don't like how that sounds. I want to sign up so that I don't get overlooked. And that is what I wanted to go to next, because I want you mentioned that persons can sign up in the community. And you know, sometimes we can get very skeptical as a people, because that to me would seem the most direct route. I live in Suites. Wherever in Suites is assigned at the sign up area, I go to Suites and I sign up. But I may want the more direct approach to come down to the port.
Well,
Now, permit me 1 second. Now, we also know that there are security protocols down at the port. So if persons wish to apply for these opportunities and they're coming down to the port, will they need to know that they will have to abide by the security protocols that the port has in order to get to you? Or are you situated outside of that area?
the security protocols are pretty minimal. I mean, as long as that you have an ID, they do require that you have an ID.
You're
to
dressed
enter the
properly.
I'm
You
sorry.
are dressed. You are
You're
well
dressed
properly
properly.
attired.
Just indicate that you're there to fill out an application for the port project, and they will, allow you to go up and fill out the application. In my estimation, it's pretty simple.
And just to add to that, that location is outside of the main port area. So we are Dredge Bay.
All right.
And the entry protocols there are a little bit more relaxed, although you can't walk in. Well, you can't walk in. I know they
I
held
suppose
you-
I have privileges, and I had to turn back from my
they didn't let you in, and they maybe
which is a
maybe-
good thing, because they were
Right.
observing their protocols.
Right.
I'm not saying that there's a problem. I'm just letting people know that
Right.
the security personnel take their jobs very seriously.
Well, and I think that when you have all the pieces, really, is you dress properly, you come with an ID, you go upstairs. The ladies are there with the forms, you fill it out, and then Shabazz gets it. I think we have a good system, and we can encourage more people to come in and do that. I think that's what we want.
You want to encourage more people?
Well, yeah, I mean, he's here to facilitate opportunities for individuals. So if you want to get in, I'm happy to
Pass it over.
broadcast loudly and clearly that Khalid Shabazz is responsible for that part of the project, and he has a good team working along with him, with some of my staff assisting, and they're doing a fantastic job compiling it.
We have to
So-
create
sounds
it.
like my job
We've
gone.
actually created a database of local workers and equipments that we have. So whenever we are called upon, we can deliver. So that is something that we have established.
So to tie this point up, just remind. I know you said that we all know what kinds of opportunities, jobs will be available for locals, but just give us a few samples in case persons may not be aware. What are some of the areas where you would need locals employed, like masons?
Like the technicians, like the masons, the welders, and sometimes we need
Steel
also
benders.
need some local foreman, yes, and also
Local laborers.
yes,
also.
laborers, yes,
Okay.
the drivers,
Steel
operators,
Steel benders.
yes,
We need some drivers as well.
Yes.
Drivers,
Yes.
heavy duty equipment operators.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So we at least have a preliminary list of what is needed. I don't want for us to, overstretch that. But for those who are listening or who can pass the word along to others, that there are opportunities available on this project for our citizens and residents to make a living, and they're not to be overlooked, so that we can make sure that we maximize benefit. So that's one area that I wanted to close off on. The other area that we spoke about yesterday that was very important was the whole issue of quality assurance, and to ensure that we get the best value for our 600 million RMB. I have it highlighted. Yes, I have it highlighted. And as indicated yesterday, we have a representative from our project management team with us, Teacher Zachariah. And of course, we have, and Petra, I forget how to pronounce these. No, Kyrie
Yeah, yeah.
and Mr. Law. Very good. With us today. So I would just like for you to just give us, Mr. Telemak explained, which one of the mics? Mr. Telemak, I can borrow this one, just in case you need to add anything in. Yes. Mr. Telemak was telling us yesterday about the fact that this is a new approach by the Chinese government and the Exim Bank in terms of ensuring that they get value for the project. What role, how do you see your role in this particular project?
他刚才说，咱们这边扮演的一个是上面的一个角色。 你说吧，我这边再说一下。
我们的代表立者在这个本项目的
少说一点。
进行管理。
We will on behalf of the Port Authority to manage this project.
就是对设计和施工总包单位提交的设计图纸进行审查和批准，对设计图纸进行管理设计。
And we also need to review and manage the design drawing from the design company and the general contractor.
对项目施工期间的工程质量、进度和投资以及安全生产进行控制。
And we need manage the quality, the construction, the safety, and the measurement, and also the environment protection. 完了。
对活动和信息以及环境保护进行管理。合同。
说过了，我刚刚都已经说了。
这就是协调参监各方的关系。
And we also need to coordinate we need to communicate between the Port Authority and the general contractor, CCE here.
Okay, excellent. So, Mr. Talamak, the team just mentioned the issue of environmental protection.
Yes.
And I'd probably like you and Mr. Zachariah to jump in on this. Yesterday, you mentioned in your overview that you're going to be backfilling some areas. For example, the Brysons down at the Brysons area, where the water goes into the sea. We know that our community floods easily, especially the point area. So I'm assuming that this project contains systems to mitigate against that.
Well, yes, I'll just briefly mention that, in fact, there is a current location being developed along the eastern fence of the port, heading down towards the Brysons area. So there's a new outlet being constructed. They're building that right now as we speak.
All right.
And so prior to any of the works as relates to dredging or backfilling, the outlet for St. John Street and the other street that flows into that area is actually being created. So that will go, there'll be almost a 90-degree turn that will happen from the western side of St. John Street down along the eastern fence, and then turn west again towards the Brysons Dock and then towards the ocean. So that's all being designed. Public Works was involved in facilitating the new redirection of that outlet. We had APOA coming by to also look into that as well. And so they've done their required works as far as designing and putting the drain together. I don't know if Mr. Zachariah wants to add more to that, but that's...
Just before Mr. Zachariah adds, what I would like to layer on that is that as it is now configured, it still represents an issue for flooding. So in this new design, are we anticipating that we will alleviate the existing problem?
Absolutely. Whenever a design is being carried out to drain an area, there are significant studies that are done to determine what the rainfall is like and what the runoff is like.
What rainfall?
The rainfall in the area.
You mean like the wind we're having today from Isaiah?
You caught me. Yeah, what the rainfall is likely to be and what the runoff or discharge will be. And the size of the drain, the gradient, things like that are designed accordingly to what to those parameters. So you're actually getting a much better drainage system than existed previously.
It's the Dickinson Bay drain, back street drain. I know the plans are also to do some work on the back side of Dredge Bay, the other side of the former Food City building. Are there any implications for that drain as well that are also being addressed? Because that too tends to back up, especially behind James Service Station.
Yes, there's an integrated approach to the development in that area, in that there will be some backfilling and development behind there. So that drain that runs behind Food City into Dredge Bay has to be upgraded so that you don't have the backing up. And I think one of the reasons for that is because things have been either dumped in the path of the drain, or it has been allowed to silt has been allowed to accumulate. So that has to be maintained and managed.
Yes, silt is the main culprit,
Well,
mainly because of how it's shaped.
Actually, silt is not the main culprit.
What is the main
No,
culprit?
there are too many things that were dumped into the drain.
The drain is small.
There were no grills put in place.
Oh, okay.
And so everything, when you have no grills where you can trap some of the debris, remove it and continue to flow, then you have the sort of effects that you see, which is flooding. And what we've done, I must say that about 2 years ago, Solid Waste came in with some heavy equipment, and they did a fantastic job. They must have scrubbed that area really clean. I mean, they did. It looked completely new. There were some works that the Port Authority collaborated with them to do. We built a wall along the northern side of that drain, and we put in some grills to stop the advancement of any of the debris that would have gone down into the drain behind James Gas Station, because that's what would happen.
It still gets high.
It's a lot of water coming down, but if you notice, it gets high, but it flows. It's no longer backing up.
Okay.
We've not had flooding in that area for quite some time since it was cleaned up. So with the advent, and Gene Gould is the one who actually designed the grills.
Okay.
And we did that as a Port Authority as part of our continuing effort to partner with the community. We worked along with Solid Waste, we built it in, and I think that drain is now way better. Similarly, we went across to the St. John Street area with CCECC, and we got agreement with them that we're going to build a similar trap on the eastern side of the street. So at the entrance, at the exit of St. John Street, the western exit of St. John Street, there's going to be the drain going into the port prior to crossing the street, right at the exit. They're going to put a trap there. They're going to dig a manhole, put in some grills to block the trash and the garbage that's coming down so it doesn't go into the drain. That way you can continue to maintain that drain. So if we maintain the drain, take the debris out, water is continue to flow. So that has been the challenge. The drains have not been maintained, and they couldn't be maintained because they weren't the traps that were built in. But these are going to be built in, which would significantly improve the issue of drainage.
So in essence, as part of the St. John's Harbour Redevelopment Project, we are also taking into account addressing the drainage issues that have traditionally plagued the community, especially the flooding areas across St. John Street and Wilkinson's Cross and Mariners Lane.
Well, yes, and one of the things that I want to stress as you've raised that point is that the development of the Deepwater Harbor is going to ultimately lead to the development of this area of town. This is going to be the new phase of development for this environment. It's going to change. There are going to be more businesses required to be around here because you're going to have a new structure, not just from a physical standpoint. The physical plant will be one thing, but you're now going to have a lot more opportunities and avenues for businesses to engage each other, engage the port, so that on the Bay Street area and coming back into the Point area, significant opportunities are going to abound. And so we won't just see the improvement of the drains. We're going to see an improvement in the entire community. And we think, too, that for too long, the port has sat there at Point or at Rat Island and has not really delivered into the immediate area as it should. And part of our role is to ensure that the development of the Deepwater Harbor doesn't go past Point, that it includes Point. It aids in the development and transformation of Point.
And Villa people in effect, you know, so say
Point,
extend the
well, Petra,
particular.
in my mind, Point and Villa is the same, but I'm not really from there.
Just making sure.
When I say Point, I mean Villa too.
I can say that.
Yes, I don't see the separation, so you do.
When they get they get the word, not me.
Well, mind you, though, we've also adopted the Villa School, and that's a school that we do a significant amount of supporting too. We work very
Hold
well.
on. Wait. We have very tight time.
Yes.
So I have to bring you back on the corporate responsibilities of the port.
Okay, very well.
But I want to keep you back because you mentioned Rat Island.
Yes.
What will become, you know Rat Island? The hill that's going on to the port? Yes, that has been with us forever, and we use it as a marker for historical references in Antigua and Barbuda. So I want to know what will become of Rat Island.
According to this project, Rat Island stays.
Oh, nice. Seriously?
Yes.
No adjustments, nothing?
Well, Rat Island stays. That's I will be very, very direct. We have no plans to alter Rat Island. There's going to be some additions on the north side. That's in the Dredge Bay area. So it's going to become a larger continuous piece of land, because as we reclaim the land on the north side, you're going to have some expansion there. But as far as moving the hills, there are going to be a few rocks that you have to remove because they're dangerous, and we have to address some of that danger. But in terms of the structure, the hill is going to sit there for a while until the determination is made as to what we do with it. I think.
So it's not going to be there in the long run, but at least during this construction phase, it stays.
If you ask me my opinion, which I see you're prodding a little bit there, I'm a port manager, and I'd like to see a big,
flat,
expansive
open
port.
space.
Yes, I'd like to see a big, expansive port, and therefore, if you ask me what I'd do, I'd probably use it to create more port area. But I'll tell you something that's true. Antigua is expanding, and I mean, we have a growth rate at the port over the last 4 years that exceeds 20% annually. And as we see that growth rate taking place, if that's the trajectory that Antigua is on, then sooner we're going to need a bit more space to facilitate the growth pattern that we're experiencing. And therefore, if you're trapped between the Deepwater Harbor, the main section of the harbor on the south side and the Dredge Bay area on the north, you're going to have to make some decisions at some point. That's not being discussed now, but I expect that to be done at some point.
Where is the Coast Guard going to be relocated to? Because I know the discussion was that the Coast Guard will not continue to occupy their current location.
As a matter of fact, Petra, the Coast Guard should be conspicuously placed in the harbor. When you drive into the harbor, you should see a big sign that says Antigua Coast Guard. That gives confidence, comfort, and it demonstrates a level
I feel
of
you're setting me up with the
awareness. And I'm setting you up.
Yeah.
No, not at all. I am actually of the mindset that removing the Coast Guard from the back of the harbor and placing it at the front of the harbor is something that we've discussed.
Oh, so they're not going to come along the side where the boats come in?
When you're driving in the harbor, you're going to see a big sign that says Antigua Coast Guard. What we are looking at is the area where the old men's warehouse now sits, coming across to where that same area that we're building the drain from St. John Street, coming towards the fisheries complex on the side next to where West Indies Oil now has their facility. Right. That whole area there will be recreated to
So they won't be at the entrance. They'll be a little further up. You will see the sign, but they'll be a little further up.
Yeah, well, when you drive in, you'll see the sign. There'll be the sign somewhere, and I think for every vessel owner, for every insurance company, seeing that the Coast Guard is conspicuously placed in the harbor represents a huge improvement from the fact that they're literally missing. If you go to any harbor anywhere in the world, you tend to see that the Coast Guard is well on display. It's a sign of comfort.
Okay, all right. And we didn't speak yesterday about the brokers who then decided to stress me out. I know we have the customs office and everything placed, but what will become of the brokers? They want to make sure that they've been displaced with the agents. I don't know why, because they're relevant to what the operations.
Well, remember, the agents are not being displaced.
No, when I say in terms of being placed outside of the port. So I just wanted for you to comfort the brokers. I know that they already know, but just from a public perspective, where the brokers will be in terms of this as the redevelopment continues.
Right. So let me go over that again. The agents are not being displaced. The agents are actually being asked to remove the equipment, the excess equipment the equipment that the facilities that they've used to facilitate their own storage within the port, they've been asked to remove those and get a location outside the port to do so. The agents' offices are still within the port property, and that's where they facilitate the interchange for cargo leaving and coming back into the port. There are brokers that are now situated within the port. We generate some revenue from them because they do pay a rent to be there. And similarly, we will be facilitating them in the new warehouse facility that we're going to have. It's
In the short term, where will they be?
in the
While
short term,
construction goes
we
on?
have to move them from there, and they're going to be somewhere between, and we're looking at 2 sites right now. They're going to be either close to where the Jackie's food stand is on the right next to the roundabout, or they may be on the northern side of the Dredge playing field, right on the corner of the little hillside. That's where they're going to be. So they're going to be in one of those locations.
Okay.
So we're still looking to ensure that they're kept as close as possible. We would prefer to have them closer, but we're now in discussions with Mrs. Smalls, who is the owner of that property right next to the roundabout, and someone who has been in my office a few times as of late, trying to ensure that we establish the corners and every piece that actually belongs to her. She's been quite nice, and we're hoping that we can work something out where we can utilize that. As a matter of fact, she's made it available to us if we need so, and we are working to ensure that we do that. However, the brokers represent a part of the process. If they are close by and they're available and accessible to the customers, then they can facilitate their business as well. So we're not thinking that we need to ignore them. We have to ensure that we position them, that they can add the sort of create this sort of efficiency that the customers can benefit from, and as they do so, the entire environment becomes more productive and better. Our role is not to move any business from the Point Villa area. We want to bring it in, so we're not letting them go away from that area. They're going to be right here.
All right. Now, I want to also now turn a little bit. We're going back to the whole construction process and the procurement. My apologies. The procurement process. This time, not for labor per se, but in terms of like heavy equipment, maybe things like perhaps generators and other heavy equipment, capital equipment that will form a permanent part of the project. Air conditioning units, those kind of things. And I'm asking that from a historical perspective. For example, we would have had like the stadium project, the Viv Richards Stadium project, and the initial equipment that was procured. Eventually, there had to be some changes made. Mainly, I think sometimes it was done with the consideration that while it came originally from China, in terms of our maintenance practices, they'll be more in keeping with maybe equipment from the US or the UK, I don't know, those kind of things, like generators and so on, standards. For this project, all of your goods will be procured from China? Swing there.
Yes. The main, some main equipment will be from China, like the crane, the track crane,
Right.
and
我们在中国都采购一些什么设备？在中国，工具性工程设备主要工程设备出国调查还是什么？
They're just
but not all of the equipment will be from China. We will hire. Our plan is to hire some equipment like trucks, like backhoe, like excavator, and like barges. Yes. And even the forklift. Yes, a lot of local machines will be hired.
Okay.
What we will bring from China is a machine we are difficult to find in Antigua. Yes.
Okay, all right. And still with you, what about items that will form a part of the project? Sorry. What about, like, for example, air conditioning units, the generators, lighting fixtures, all of those? Because I'm asking, because as we speak about opportunities for locals, we have persons in Antigua who like supply those kind of equipment. should I call them fittings?
FF&Es.
Yeah. Is there scope? Am I explaining?
Furniture, fixtures, and equipment.
Am I explaining it properly?
I think you
this
are.
is the one part that I may need some technical expertise on.
Yes, well, maybe not technical, but the question, it's not really a construction question. It's now how you outfit the construction.
Right. Yes.
Right. So
will they be responsible for all of that, or once the construction is done, then someone else kicks in for those things?
The FF&E, most of all the furnitures will be done by the port.
Okay.
So we will be doing our own furnishing.
Oh, okay.
The lighting fixtures, they're responsible for ensuring that the lights are turned on, that the wirings are done. So from a construction perspective, there are materials that they're going to bring from China, and possibly I don't know what they're going to do, if they're going to get some from the U.S. or some from other countries. But all of the materials, lighting, plumbing, the air-conditioned docks, right? That's
all of that will be part of their role.
That's part of their
role. But
role,
then things
yes.
like the air-conditioned units and the actual fixtures, those will be the port responsibilities.
Yes, that will be done by us.
All right, and so those will fall outside the 600 million RMB, or
Yes.
those will be part of that.
Yes, we have to provide that for ourselves.
You have an idea as to the estimated cost. What I'm trying to do, now that you mentioned this, is to get an idea as to how much the overall project will cost us.
Well, what we have to do is to do it in two different ways, because the project is to construct the facility, and outfit the facility is a separate thing. What we've done in once again looking at trying to build the environment in Point is we will go out to the businesses in Point, provide them with the list of things that we procure. We do that now on a regular basis, and I may have to go back to my purchasing department and try to ensure that we've kept up with what we've put in place.
And that is the wrong line of business.
And that is we don't want to go past Point if we're looking for materials. It is not okay to leave Point where you have some small businesses trying to emerge and just go other places and ignore what's here. So we have a buy local concept at the Antigua Port Authority.
By community.
So we buy within the local community area, yes. And so there'll be opportunities for individuals who can provide some of that, some of the sourcing of some of those items, and we will extend it to them, and we will see what they come back with and work with that.
Okay, one other general question of a sort. Is the dredging and the work that will be done to extend the port facility linked to the cruise facility that is being done now just off the fisheries wharf in Point?
They're two separate projects.
Okay, perfect. That's good.
They are linked because it's the same harbor, it's the same space, but they're two separate projects. When it's all done, we will have a deeper harbor, we'll have a wider turning basin, we'll have a much safer entry and exit regime in place, but it'll be they're going to be constructed in two separate areas, two separate companies, two separate contractors. All of that will be separate.
Mr. Zachariah, what will be the linkage, or where do you see the linkage will be between your role as the quality assurance from the Antiguan perspective and the quality assurance that is being provided on behalf of the Chinese government?
Okay, well, as you know, we are in the technical field, and we therefore serve to advise the port management about what is happening. We therefore would liaise with the supervising company, and if there are issues, we discuss it with them from a technical perspective, and then we go back to the port management with one voice, so that they are understanding exactly what is being said.
So you do your independent assessment,
yes,
as the project continues,
yes,
and your team will be comprised of a number of expertise that will be able to facilitate the overall assessment. So, for example, you are the engineer,
correct,
of a particular type. What kind of type? What type of engineering?
It's civil, structural, coastal.
Okay, so you're looking after the building.
Yes.
And then I'm assuming you'll get somebody in mechanical field.
We want to have electrical.
Electrical, yes.
And maybe mechanical. Yes. Also, project managers.
Overall project manager.
Yes, that's all.
And these will all be full-time persons.
Yes.
Mr. Talamak, you anticipate being able to fill all of those positions locally?
That's certainly what we want. And not only do we want that, we would like to ultimately ensure that individuals listening who are going off to school may want to start thinking about industrial engineering. An industrial engineer would be a very good person to find, because your maintenance.
That's for the long term process.
Yes. We would want to have an industrial engineer who would be focused on the upkeep of this spankling brand new facility in the next 3.5 years. The depth of most of our infrastructure in the
You
region,
preempted my next
yes,
question.
has to do with maintenance. And if you don't have the appropriate maintenance regime in place, you don't really receive the benefits of what you've constructed. To get it done right, we need to have the right pieces together. Instead of having 3 individuals who can do 3 different things, if you have one person who can actually look at the whole plant and speak to the electrical, speak to the mechanics, speak to the structure, speak to the various level of corrosions that he's seen, because that's really where an industrial guy comes in. We would want to see if we could find someone like that, and there'd be a very good opportunity for that person.
Now or in the future?
Well, if we could find someone now, that would be wonderful. We could bring them on early and inculcate them through the development so that they learn where everything is going.
They
And
actually
now-
could be a
yeah.
part of the team that
Yeah.
we're assembling now.
I've never heard of an industrial engineer.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a
So we are
well-developed discipline.
hopeful. I don't know anything about everything I want to know about engineer. I called you guys. So we're hopeful that we have someone like that on the ground. But if we don't, we will make provisions to get one.
Yes, you're going off to school in the next couple of weeks.
You're giving scholarships.
Yes, start thinking about
You're
that.
giving scholarships.
Well, we've given quite a few. We now have 26 students in Jamaica.
That's in the maritime.
In the
sector.
maritime field, yes.
Yes, but now we're looking at
And
engineering.
We're adding a few this year. We're going to have some focus on computer technology, and but I'm saying if you're
Where was I when all of this was being discussed?
well,
I missed
Studying
this.
economics.
Not for me. I have an 18-year-old, and there are a number of other young people in the community that I
Yeah.
could hijack. But go ahead.
But seriously, if you're going off to school and you like engineering, the Port Authority is probably the best place to work in Antigua. You know, it's a good contribution to your country. It is a lasting employment. The opportunity is never going to go away the opportunity is never going to arise when the port will not be functioning. And if you wanna get into industrial engineering, you can come back to the port, and certainly we'll be looking seriously at you. So sometimes there are too many civil, there are too many structural engineers. But as you said, you've never heard about the industrial engineer.
Although
And
I'm told it's a
right.
very well-developed
it is.
area.
Oh, absolutely.
So do we
Absolutely.
have industrial engineers in Antigua already, Mr. Zachariah?
No, as far as I know, there aren't any industrial engineers
All right.
in Antigua.
The Antigua Port Authority needs one.
At least one.
Yes, definitely.
Possibly more than one.
Well, I mean, if there's more than one, we would look at that. But for sure, I can tell you we would need one.
So do you need one now as part of this redevelopment process, or it will be when you're done?
We would need one right now. So that the best thing that we could have now is if there was someone who was a young engineer looking to get some experience. We could bring them in for the construction experience, and then they would then be able to receive the knowledge of where everything is, where the pipes are buried, how
Does
this.
that person have to be this particular type, or it could be one of the other ones, mechanical or other one, and then eventually transition to the industrial engineer?
Well, the engineering program is structured in such a way that all the disciplines have a certain
Specialized.
common,
Thread.
background.
Uh-huh.
So therefore, although a particular specialty might be preferred, it's possible that another branch of engineering can step up to the plate and actually develop themselves in that area.
And the reason I'm asking that, because I'm suspecting that we may not have an industrial engineer on the ground, but we may be able to pick up one or two of the other areas that could potentially be a quick study. And I appreciate that they need to then go and get those additional add-ons that could, because you're saying we want somebody now that will then transition into the long term.
No, I'm saying that is your wish list.
Okay.
Right, that's our wish list.
Right.
By the way, we are in fact bringing on 2 engineers to work along with Mrs. Zachariah and the project team.
And you've already identified them.
We've not identified them yet. We're doing that still at the.
But you have options.
Yes.
Please tell me
yes.
yes. Thank you.
Definitely.
All right.
And these individual would be hopefully the young individuals who can grow with the project, and after the project's over, they can focus on their core specialties. What you have with an industrial engineer is that person has a well-rounded view of all of the disciplines. So he knows mechanical, he knows civil, he knows electrical. He could even do megatronics and all the various aspects.
The only megatronics I know is transformers.
I know. I mean, the computer engineering. I mean, he could learn with the versatility that's required now with technology. That's part of the training of an industrial engineer. And so, if you get someone like that, you have an advantage. You can look at your plant. They can help you with so many different things.
So, devil's advocate question. We will need some engineers to be part of the team with Mr. Zachariah.
Yes.
I know we're looking for 40% employment
Yes.
with the CCECC team.
Yeah.
Got it. Is there scope potentially for any engineers to be part of that construction team, or they will be bringing in all of their technical people? Because I mean, to be fair, they need experienced people in those areas, people who know what is expected and so on. But I'm still asking, is there room if we have engineers that could fit into their construction program? Is there room for any technical persons? It's a yes or no? For those on radio, he's translating so that the lead manager can appreciate the question and then give us an answer. So that is what is happening now as we just wait. Bear with us for a moment.
Yeah, he's actually consulting with the acting project manager.
Thank you, Mr. Zachariah.
With the project going on, we will also consider. We will also search, if possible. We are also going to search some local engineer to work with us as a senior staff.
Perfect.
Yes, to share the experience. But yes, it's based on if we can fund them. Yes.
All right. So there does exist the opportunity, not just I asked that because remember initially we spoke about the masons and laborers and so on, but I just wanted to know if there's scope for us to getting at a higher level, because I think that would be important when we talk about the long-term maintenance, just like you were mentioning. So we will have in our project audit team, and then we will also have in the project. Okay, all right. I think I have just about 3 more. Anything in particular, Mr. Telemak, you think I might have missed that you wanted to add?
Not only do you have the project actually being assisting in ensuring that the residual knowledge exists, but you also have a significant opportunity for capacity building. Mr. Zachariah said yesterday that the guys who built this port 50 years ago, most of them are not around. Maybe all of them are not around.
Oh, I was just going to say
right.
Most.
And therefore, it is true then that the opportunity to build this port is a true once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for most individuals. I would say most of us sitting at this table, certainly for Mr. Zachariah. It therefore means that the capacity that this affords those individuals who have the opportunity to work along from a technical standpoint, whether it be with the project management team or with CCECC, is a wonderful opportunity to build a local capacity, add knowledge, gain some international exposure, and actually walk away in 3 years or so with the resume being upgraded to say, I constructed the seawall at the Deepwater Harbor.
And I'm ready for my next
Yes.
assignment.
I think that therein lies some significant opportunities for individuals, and I'm hoping that this project would be well equipped with the individuals who are capable and excited to deliver something special for their country.
And we have to remember that there are likely to be many more ports built shortly in the other Caribbean islands.
Why is that?
Because most of the ports would have outlived their time and would need to be upgraded to containerized type development.
You ask some very interesting questions. I mean, why is that?
Is that a good thing?
It is. It's a very fascinating question because all the ports in the Caribbean, all of them in the Eastern Caribbean, was built in the 60s. all of them. They were built with funding from CEDA, the
Canadians, yes.
Development Fund. And if you look at the structure of all the ports in St. Kitts, Dominica, St. Lucia, everywhere, you have a warehouse in the middle of the port. That's
because
unique
that
with
is
all
where
of
you
them.
unstuff.
Right. So you would come from the sea in a small vessel and rush into the warehouse because you didn't want the guy to walk too far because the box would get lighter
Heavy.
possibly. And so you run into the warehouse and everything is secured there. Now, why is that necessary? That's necessary because the warehouse was the only form of taxation that existed back then. We didn't have these complex tax structures. The warehouse was where the treasury received the revenue. The queen got her monies from the transit shed.
It's also
so-
where everything was stored.
Right. So you would come into the transit shed, the queen would get her money, and now she can let it go out the other side. So that's why these were built this way. Now, if you go back to St. Vincent, Grenada, even in Port-au-Spain, Trinidad, and even if you went to Kingston Wharfs in Jamaica, these big warehouses are on the wharf. Antigua is the first port who's going to remove its warehouse from there. I think that is significant to understand. And so when everyone just mentioned that there are many more projects coming up, I can tell you that I'm speaking with the port manager in St. Vincent. Within the next year and a half, they're going to start their own development. St. Lucia is looking at redoing something brand new someplace else. St. Kitts is trying to toy around with what to do. There is talk as to what's going to happen. Dominica is looking at doing something also. So with this opportunity availing the individuals here in Antigua, having the shot to go at it first, it speaks then that we may be well able to export some capacity from Antigua to some of the other islands to help in constructing their own ports.
So, ladies and gentlemen, in case you just joined us, I'm realizing we're just having a few additional persons on social media. You're listening to a special Thursday, one-off Thursday edition of We're the Ones. Yesterday, we began the discussion on the St. John's Port redevelopment project with the representatives from the Antigua Port Authority, and we basically ran out of time. And so they agreed that there is need to complete that discussion, and we are joined today by representatives of CCECC,
Yes.
the construction company that will be doing the project. We're also joined by the audit technical team, also from China.
Supervision company.
The supervision company, also from China,
Yeah.
who will also be responsible for quality assurance and ensuring that we get value for money. But they are mainly representing the Exim Bank of China and the government of China. Got it right?
And the government of
And-
Antigua. And
oh, and
they work for us.
So they're working for everybody.
Yeah,
But in a
we
sorry.
will work on
Turn
behalf of
the-
the Port Authority.
turn the mic for me.
Sorry. We will work on behalf of the Port Authority here.
Yes, they
All
work
right.
for us.
So the quality assurance team, which is supervising the work of the CCECC,
Yeah.
will be working for everybody. They're working for the Chinese government. They're working for the Exim Bank. They're also working on behalf of the Port Authority, and they're working on behalf of the government of Antigua and Barbuda and the people of Antigua and Barbuda to ensure that we get the highest quality standards to last us for what, 50 years? 20 years?
50 airport.
50
now,
airport.
now, Petra, the one thing that I want the public to know is they're not working for CCECC.
I made that clear.
That's
They
very
are.
clear.
I made that and it's
So
clear.
when you say they work for everybody, not for CCECC.
Okay, my apologies.
Right.
They are working to supervise
Yes.
CCECC on
Yes.
behalf of the rest of us.
Right.
Reasonable?
Correct.
And I just want to say that this, as Mr. Telemak explained yesterday, this is another layer, another layer added into the whole Chinese process of dealing with us as the external investments, especially when we borrow from them, because they have recognized that there is need to add another level of supervision to ensure that there are not shortcomings or any other hindrances to the quality that we get for our money.
Right.
So good enough.
So essentially, we signed a contract with this company, Guangzhou Shen.
Yeah.
Guangzhou Hoshen.
Yeah.
Guangzhou Hoshen.
That's correct.
You know, I'm
you
not
want-
even,
you wanna try saying that?
I'm not even going to try that. Guangzhou Hoshen.
You did it well.
Guangzhou
yeah.
Hoshen.
Guangzhou
For this, I deserve a trip to China. Okay.
You know that.
Yeah, so we've signed a contract with them, and so they're here to work directly with us. As a matter of fact, I can highlight a story which took place in China. We were in the city where the design company is from. I don't remember the name of the city, but we were
China's
Yuan.
second harbor.
Wuhan.
Wuhan.
Wuhan. Yeah, we were in
yeah.
Wuhan City. Yes.
I have been to that city,
Okay.
but that was in 2001.
Okay.
So I'm clearly due another trip to China. Okay. All right. Good.
Good.
Carry on.
So we were there having some discussions with the designer, and our supervision partners were on the table. Everyone was there as well, and we were having this heated argument about the seismic rating that we should use on the project.
That's
And,
the earthquake.
Yes, yes. And we went through back and forth, and the designers were of the impression that they had it done right, and the supervision company got up and went to the front of the time and told the designers, "You're going to have to do what they're saying." And that's when we realized that this is for real. This is
That is our role. It's,
Yes.
yeah.
Perfect.
yes.
Excellent.
So I must say that we have a level of oversight that we can rely on. This is a big investment. The Chinese government is trying to ensure that there's quality in the assistance that they give. That is not just assistance that is done willy-nilly. That as you represent yourself as the world leader, that you now have to deliver world-class, first-rated quality
So
work.
tell him, careful, you might be suggesting something with that statement.
Well,
Careful, Mr. Talbot.
but here it is. We have this group supervising the contractor, and we are very excited about that. I'll also say this about the project, and that is, with that many projects upcoming throughout the region, we get to ensure that this contractor, who would probably like to be involved in other projects, is going to have to ensure that our project is done so well that the other countries would be interested in wanting to continue working along with them. So we have a unique opportunity to ensure that their work actually emerges to be what we expect, what we want, the highest quality. And if they do that well with us, I'm sure they're going to have other people looking at them to do stuff. So the pressure is on them as well to ensure that they deliver on a very, very high level.
Okay, I have a question for Mr. Zachariah, before I come back to Khalid. Because I realize now, I didn't realize that yesterday, that Mr. Zachariah has been involved with this basically from the design phase.
Yes, I've been involved
Pre-design phase.
from quite a while.
You forget to tell me that yesterday.
It's-
But it's an easy question, I promise. So in terms of the design phase, what are some of the factors that would have been taken into consideration, as far as you're aware, in terms of the size and the scope of what we're getting?
Yes, well, studies first of all had to be conducted with all stakeholders to determine what it is that is really needed, and I think the port manager had to play a big part in indicating to them what exactly is required.
I hope he don't plan to retire anytime soon, you know.
In terms of space for the port operation, in terms of staffing, in terms of the what customs would require, and even to some extent in the arrangement of the various facilities and the relative location, ensuring that each facility is placed in the correct position, because that is what is going to affect your efficiency. And if, for example, you have let's say the warehouse being placed in the wrong position, then you know that's going to decrease your efficiency. So yes, also information like the subsoil conditions had to be obtained. So there were some geotechnical investigations before. I'd aided them with the design in terms of knowing what the soil type is and if what type of foundation is required, whether you have to use piles or if you can improve the ground and you know, have shallow footings, that kind of stuff.
And of course, Mr. Telemack, we would have taken into account not only the current expected traffic at the port and the nature of the services, but we're projecting down the road.
Absolutely. I think he's well aware that ports are designed normally for in the region of 50 years. So therefore, it's not just a matter of the current demands for the port, but what it's likely to be in, let's say, 40 years, 50 years, including if there might be any change in the way things are done. Like, for example, when the previous port was designed, they did not anticipate container shipping at all. he has to be able to determine whether or not shipping might change from being containerized to another form, and to try to incorporate that into the plans.
Another form?
Another form. We can't say that shipping will always be containerized. Maybe there might be a more effective or efficient way of doing shipping in the future.
I can tell you one that's emerging. Right now, they're exploring the concept of having the containers be collapsible. So it's shipped upright, and when it's going back empty, it's collapsed, so that you have more space. You can put more. You can be more efficient. That's what's being explored now. I'm just backing up his point. There's always this concept, because if you have an empty container, or you have a ship with 5,000, 6,000 empty containers on board, you have a whole bunch of air. But what if you flattened it, and now you could put 40,000 containers on that vessel, return it back to where it needs to go to? That changes the efficiency and the costing of that transaction. So they're looking at all of these factors as to how they do. They're also looking now at unmanned container ships, so that everything would be brought in via GPS, satellite guided, so there'll be no crew, no captain. It comes alongside. And right now there's a vessel that does that. It's built by Rolls-Royce. It discharges itself.
It would have to be that.
Yes, but that's just the test. It discharges itself. So what tends to happen, as did in 1968 when the port was constructed, we see one thing now. And in 1968, they were seeing what they knew. Mm-hmm. And they built this fantastic environment, which was the new, coming from the King's Warehouse,
right,
which is just up the street from here. And they built the Deepwater Harbor, and there was this great excitement about what they just built. 3 years later, it was obsolete because the first container showed up. So in between 1964, 65, 68, all of the thoughts and efforts went into
You mean
building
before
this
I
port.
was born, the
Yes,
port was obsolete?
before we were born, all of that was done. And then what happened is you now have a brand new port which you're celebrating, but the industry is running away from you. And 3 years later, the first container showed up, and you regretted building the warehouse where you did. But now it's there. You have to leave it. And almost 50 years later, it's still there. We've been forcing the process on integrating the delivery of services into a space that wasn't built for that. High risk, high cost, inefficiencies, all of that we've had to endure.
Let me pause you there for a second. Since we're discussing what could be relevant and not relevant, with all that you've said, I'm going to add something to you. Is there scope in this new port that is being constructed for businesses to operate from inside the port?
Absolutely.
Such as, for example,
Absolutely.
you have a space that's outlined?
Yes, we'll be looking at doing our container park. We'll call it logistics park, sorry.
Right.
And within that logistics park, you would have warehouses where you can do distribution. You can have fulfillment services going on there. You
Light
can
manufacturing, maybe?
Light manufacturing as well would be able to be both for inland distribution and for export.
What square footage have you allocated to this?
We have, there's a portion of the port yard where we've looked at designing about 8 to 12, 10, 20,000 square foot facilities, and renting these out to
8 to 12, 20,000 square foot facilities?
Yeah.
Okay, I need to come tour.
Yes, you would have to come have a look. We'll show you where we're looking at doing that. And then these areas are going to add a whole new dimension to what we're doing here.
I asked that question, just permit me before not that I'm cutting you off, so that our people can understand the scope of the opportunities available. So we're doing the construction, there are opportunities there.
Yes.
The traditional type of services that are provided through the port and the opportunities that we normally exploit through the port, for those of us who are in business, those opportunities will be there and will get better.
Yes.
But in addition to that, there will be an additional opportunity where you can do your logistics type services and other. So basically, we can begin to go out now or look internationally for business opportunities that we can partner with, that we can bring to the port once the construction is completed.
Now you're talking in my language. No more construction. Let's talk port. Petra, let me give you an example. If you are a lumber company, and I know, for example, there's a lumber company that supplies quite a bit of lumber into Antigua and the region as well.
Yes.
Putnam Lumber. I know the company. I've been up to their plants in Alabama and Georgia, and they ship a lot of cargo out of Jacksonville, Florida. Instead of moving a barge throughout the region 2 or 3 or 4 times a month, you could literally say to Putnam Lumber, you can move all your regional cargo into Antigua. We will buy with whoever the partner is. We will take what we need from the port to Antigua, and we will export from here to the neighboring islands. I mean, that's the concept we want to do, because
that will impact the cost, I'm assuming, of shipping, which will overall impact the cost, the prices for the commodities.
Exactly.
And I want people to understand that that's what we're
Exactly.
looking at when we say put down a logistical park.
Exactly.
And how it can impact on the cost of doing business.
That's the concept.
Right.
So we are expecting to not just build this facility, because it's one thing to build it, but in most cases, when something is built, it's either underutilized or not utilized in the manner that it was supposed to be. We want to ensure that we provide enough knowledge out there so that we can learn how to manipulate what we're constructing. And we want to manipulate it to its core, so that at the end of the day, we have a number of businesses. We have Dominica close by, we have St. Kitts close by, Nevis, Montserrat, Anguilla, St. Martin even. We can feed these islands. The difference with what exists now and what can exist is that we don't have those facilities in place. We don't have the structure. There's some legislation we have to tweak to make that happen. We're moving into a free movement of goods era within the OECS.
We are in a free movement of goods.
Well,
era.
we have not completed that yet.
Mm-hmm.
We are moving towards that. So as we move towards that area, businesses better start looking at how they can access the broader markets and facilitate the growth of their businesses, so that you no longer will have Antigua plumbing, you will have OECS plumbing, because you can have the same company in Dominica, in
Replicated
St.
across the
Lucia, in
islands.
Grenada, and the tax regime would not change. So
Right.
if you pay your taxes in Antigua, you move it to your next door in any one of the
Uh-huh.
islands, and you have a whole new environment. So we are preparing the business community in Antigua for that eventuality. And the port here in St. John's is probably the only port in the OECS. St. Kitts is too small, Grenada is too small, St. Vincent is too small.
Grenada cannot be too
Dominica
small.
is too
Grenada has a
small.
bigger population than us.
The
Their port is too small.
Their ports. I'm talking about their ports.
I understand. Are they landlocked or something?
They're locked by the ocean, locked by the city on the other side.
And the hills and the mountains on the other
They
side.
can't grow.
Okay.
Dominica is limited, can't grow. St. Kitts is limited. St. Lucia is limited. St. Vincent is limited. The only island that has an open space, which is the concept of Rhode Island and its future.
I was going to say that.
is Antigua. And we want to use the space factor to our benefit by saying to these large conglomerates, you can have a warehouse here, you can do the distributions. So with that now comes the next component. We now need to have the relevant delivery systems to deliver to these markets. So business people, investors, young upcoming entrepreneurs need to start looking into the future to see what type of vessels. There was a time when Antigua was the bastion of regional distribution. We brought goods in from Puerto Rico and other parts of the region.
Yeah, but those vessels were owned by the Monstratons, so I guess they'll be back shortly.
It's
It's not a negative thing. Monstratons own the vessels that
well,
shipped throughout Antigua. You know that's right? Our history, yeah.
It's they're almost one country anyway. And so what I'm saying is we want to bring that back to where we start distributing to the other areas as well. And one of the most interesting things about the future of Antigua is Antigua does have excellent air connectivity throughout the region, and therefore you would now be able to merge the air superiority in terms of connectivity, the maritime connectivity, so you would now have the perfect logistics environment existing with the new port, a brand new airport, and with both areas having the type of connection. Future looks good, but it requires engagement and understanding from all of us in how to manipulate that.
And so we have 8 minutes left, and we come to the critical point now that I would like us to end on of engagement, continuous engagement. And first person I'd like to go back to is Mr. Shabazz. Mr. Shabazz, just remind our listening audience of your role in the project and what type of engagement that you will facilitate in terms of us moving forward.
Well, as I mentioned earlier on, Petra, my main responsibility is as liaison person between the Antigua and Barbuda government and China Civil Engineering Construction Corporation is to be able to assist or be the liaison person between the Antigua Barbuda government and them to provide whatever that is needed. And my primary role
In terms of employment.
In terms of employment. Not only employment, but also equipment, heavy-duty equipment,
Okay.
whatever that can be sourced here on island. Contractors, laborers, making sure that these needs are met, and making sure that our community of Point and Villa are also very involved in the process of constructing the port, because we want to make sure that they have a stake, they can see themselves in the construction of something that is in their community, and Antigua as a whole.
So in essence, persons are now encouraged to go to their various community centers where they can register through those centers, and that information will get to you.
Yeah.
Or for those who prefer, tell me.
They can also visit the Antigua Port Authority, which is located now. The administration building is located where the
Just say,
Dredge Bay,
just say Dredge Bay.
where the
They
Dredge
know
Bay
where
playing
Dredge Bay
field,
is.
football field.
People, by the way, yes, because this came up yesterday. Not Dredge Bay, not Dredgers. Some people like to do that mix up.
Right.
This is Dredge Bay down in Villa.
Yes.
Just
Point. Is it Point Villa? Point.
Can you draw the line for me, Petra?
Point extension. No, I'm not going to draw the line. I will put you in trouble. Okay, everybody, you know where Villa School is? Right. Come down here, going to Villa School and just look around. You will see the
Do you
the
know
nice
line? The
orange
line is
fence.
Back Street.
No.
Line Street, Dickinson
No,
Bay
the
Street.
line is not Dickinson Bay Street, but that is not for today. That is for another day.
Really?
Y'all didn't listen to the conversation when we had
You
a,
didn't
we had
hear
a
the engineer-
we had a
the
whole
engineer.
discussion about where Point Day. Mr. Zachariah and I come from Point.
How you come from?
He's my teacher. I love him to death, but he and I gonna argue that one there.
I would like to correct you.
You come from Point?
I am actually from Point.
I joke, you
I
make.
grew up on Bishop Gate Street.
No, you don't come from Point.
I am
Bishop,
telling you.
Bishop Gate Street, as it is, in a
Bishop
Point.
Gate Street goes right up from Public Works right down to
Bishop Gate Street stop
To
by
Destin's.
just above Destin, Wilkinson's Cross. Anything above Wilkinson's Cross in the original Point is not Point. However, we'll have that talk another day. Mr. Zachariah will come back. That is the new Point. What? Mr. Zachariah pulling your foot.
I'm still teaching you.
Hey, your teachers are always your teachers for life. Let's make that clear. So we now
That's where they can go to fill out the
Right,
application.
yes.
And be able to be.
tell them don't call you, because you're not somebody going to call you. Let's
Well,
go through
I
the
get that all the
process.
time, you know. I just
And then you just redirect
I
them
just
where they need to
redirect
go.
them where they
All
need
right.
to
So
go.
please do not bombard Mr. Shabaz's phone. He needs his phone for his other. Mr. Tell him I can give him a port phone. Because if you have a port phone, then we're gonna call him.
Well, no, he would need a project phone.
Yeah,
Not a
you
port
give
phone.
him a project phone.
No, he doesn't have one yet.
Okay, so then officially we can't call him. Okay, folks. All right, and now we turn to CCECC. I hope that your crew has been having a good time so far in Antigua,
Yes.
and my community. I'm from Point,
Yes.
the inner Point. My community has been taking care of you.
Yes. Already.
Okay. All right. Y'all play football.
Yes.
Okay. Are we gonna teach you some cricket? You know cricket?
Yes. I know cricket,
You know cricket?
but I don't know how to play it. Maybe you can teach me.
No,
yeah.
not me.
Yes.
Personally, I only spectate. I will take you to watch the cricket.
No
but I'm
problem,
sure
yeah.
we will get some
Thank
people
you.
to
They,
teach
they
you.
do play basketball, you know,
Yes.
Petra.
I was coming to that.
I've played basketball.
I was
with them.
coming.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just thought I would let you.
Shabazz, I forgot any basketball thing. Yes, I heard there's a basketball court in the middle of the area.
And
So we
they
might
play
have to take down a team.
Yeah. They
Okay.
play well too.
All right. So what I would like for you to share with us, just a very quick look at your plans for the construction as we wrap up.
Look.
Okay. Overview.
Yes.
Yes, yeah,
Overview of the plan.
Yes.
Of the construction.
Yes.
他的意思是让咱们看能不能分享一下咱们这个整个施工进度的一个总体的一个计划啊。
那就是咱们现在放到那个图上面来。
In fact, our how to say, the look of our plan is located in your computer. There.
All right.
Yes.
So I will share that with the audience. Perfect.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
All right. So ladies and gentlemen, we have the project plan. And as usual, Jupiter won't leave me, and it's right here. I just can't put it up. So I will put it up, I promise. Before we go, I will put it up. It's right there. We're all seeing it in studio on the big screen that we could explain, but and I think Mr. Telemark will be able to provide us with some notes as to what C1 is and C3 is and C2 is that we can always share a little later.
Yes.
Right, but we're almost out of time, so we will not do that. And of course, as we said, we also have our quality assurance supervision team. I'm going to get the names. Kyrie. Right.
Yeah, my name's Kari.
Right, yes. So just to remind our audience of your primary role so that they don't forget that you're here to look after us.
Sorry.
Remind our listeners
Yeah.
that what you're here to do.
Oh.
Your function.
对，咱们在这边的主要工作是啥？怎么又说一遍？
就是对项目施工期。
Again, they're just conferencing in their language.
We will, here to ensure the whole projection duration. The time is will be fully finished according to the contract, and we will ensure the quality and the safety and the other things in this project to work smoothly, and we also need to supervise and urge the general company to do it well on this project, and we also need to make a good communication between the port authority and our general contractor. Yeah, all this we need to fulfill our responsibility on all of these things above.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Zachariah, it's your feet I go hold to the fire. I don't know the other members of your team as yet, the local team, co-team, but we are anticipating that you will definitely ensure that we get the best bang for our 600 million RMB. I'm reminding you how much it is, equivalent to just about 95 million now, 90 million US that we're going to have to pay back. And I saw some stories the other day about Singapore having to give up their port.
Sri Lanka.
My apologies to Singapore. That would never happen. Sri Lanka having to give up their port. We're in that. So we're counting on you to make sure we get the best bang for our buck. Anything you want to share with us as we wrap up?
Oh, definitely. I'd just like to say that we have a very exciting project which we are embarking on, and I'm very enthused to be a part of the team. And definitely I'll be looking out to ensure that the quality of work is good. Things are done in accordance with codes that we expect, and that the project is carried out with minimal cost or time overruns.
Excellent. Mr. Telemark, the final word is yours. Permit me to say just before you say that of course, doors of We're the Ones remain open. If there's need to bring any updates, or if it's just to share information, we're here every Wednesday. So even if we give you the first 10 minutes, you can come in or send someone that can just share any updates that you need the community on a whole to be made aware of. And of course, when we get down to that Christmas season with those barrels and, the logistical challenges, we will be here to assist. Last word is yours.
Yes, thank you. Petra, I want to thank you for spearheading this effort. You came in, made the request, planned, put together some excellent questions. You came by, sat with us, went through some discussions on the project itself, and showed a commitment to getting the best possible information about it. You've proven that you've been well informed in the questions that you've asked and the follow-ups that you've done, and I think you've done an excellent job. So thank you very much for assisting us in getting the word out. This project is happening. It's no longer a discussion. It's on, and it's going to be some plan. Makes you feel like a little dwarf.
I'm a girl. I'm a girl. I'm supposed to feel like a little dwarf.
It's very tall. And Evan Zachariah, who's always ready to come and do what he's called on to do with the port. We want to thank you for coming. The listeners, we're going to be doing a lot more of these forums. I think there can't be enough information brought out about how important this is. I want to highlight the point that I made just a moment ago. that construction is exciting, it creates construction work, but manipulating the constructed asset is really what creates wealth. And so what we have to understand is that the asset that we're building is not something to be looked at, but to be manipulated. So we would like to meet with various stakeholders. We're going to have a meeting tomorrow with some of our key partners at the port, importers that is. We're going to try to meet, we're speaking with the Chamber of Commerce, we're going to meet with them. If you're a Rotary Club and you want us to come and spend some time to discuss what we're doing with the project, we want to do that as well. We would like to have an opportunity to do something
Kiwanis clubs too.
at the
Just saying.
and the Lions Club or any one of them, any of the social groups who wants to have an opportunity for us to share with them.
That one for me was personal, so that's why I threw that in. Carry on.
Yes, we'd also we're looking forward to spend some time at the State College even to highlight to the students what this project means, what it's going to require in the next 4 or 5 years going forward, so they can start planning to see how they can shape their future, to add value, and continue to build on this effort. It is something that can dynamically transform Antigua. We've coined a phrase on this project, something that we take very personal, and it is that this project will transform the inland from the coastline. The port and its advancement, its development, will ultimately change the country. We believe that as we improve efficiency and productivity at the port, it will lead to greater delivery, better pricing, and better costing, ultimately lower the cost of living at the point of sale, and create greater benefits for the people who actually own it, which are the people of Antigua.
And on that note, before we get thrown out, because I think we've taken up some time, I want to thank Kenny Nibs for allowing us to take an hour of his time, because we took an hour of his program. And I'd like to thank the management of Point FM for allowing us to have this second day to complete this particular program. Again, let me thank each one of you for coming and sharing with us. I think as a listening community, myself, as the host, I've learned quite a bit of new opportunities, being able to begin to think differently again in terms of how we approach wealth creation, getting in job creation and employment in Antigua and Barbuda. And so I want to wish the team very best, most success, very safe construction season. And to our supervisory team, I wish you all the best with all of your skills and your team, safe health, and much success with your project. To my local team, Mr. Shabazz, those shoulders are going to be broad and needed, because I'm expecting for you to be inundated, and that you will treat all our local stakeholders with equity and justice. And Mr. Zachariah, of course, teacher, you can only do but the best as usual. So Mr. Telemark and team, thank you very much for coming in. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of We Are the Ones today. Over and out. Have a good afternoon, everyone. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of We Are the Ones today. Over and out. Have a good afternoon, everyone.
I can work it out, but now I'm thinking something's missing. Only we can work it out. Before I think my mind is open, saying I got no one to blame. Girl, I don't wanna live without you. No, I can't go on, and I don't know what really to do. Girl, I'm begging you, and I don't wanna live without you. Like I'm caught between a rock and a hard place. Girl, it's like a rock in a hard place. La da da dee, la da da da, la da da dee, da dee, ba ba dee da, la da da dee, la da da da, la da da dee, da dee, ba ba dee da. la da da dee, la da da die, la da da dee, pa dee pa pa dee die, la da da dee, la da da die, la da da dee da dee pa pa dee die, la da da dee. Watch my story unfold. Could've never believed it. I made a mistake, that's for sure. Please believe me, there ain't no sunshine.